As you saw in the intro, I'm headed to Wassaw Island to work with sea turtles, in fewer words. I found out about this opportunity through my science professor earlier this year, and she's been volunteering with Caretta Research Project for 10 years. The only person I knew before today was my professor, and everybody else is a stranger. Well, I knew I was headed to a deserted island for an 8-day long trip. I guess I didn't process that I would be riding on a boat. I have never been on a boat before. And I mean like canoes and then that one ride at the water park, but yeah, this is nice. This is nice. There were a total of 8 volunteers. So it was me, my professor, my classmate, and some other teachers from the Marietta, Kennesaw area. So Wassaw Island is right off the coast of Georgia next to Tybee Island and Savannah. The only difference is Wassaw Island is completely deserted, minus the island's handler. It took about 30 minutes to get to the location, and I'm not sure if it was the recent storm or the level of the tide, but the water had covered the trail after we got past the bridge, and we had to walk barefoot on the path and push our bags through canoes to get to the other side. The ground was actually covered in broken seashells, so I was kind of screaming on the inside just because, they were slowly stabbing me in the foot. But I realized if I walk on like the grassy part, like the very edge of the trail, then it wouldn't hurt as much. We all gathered in the main house for a family-style dinner, creating homemade pizzas. It was definitely an adjustment period, having to share food and then be in the kitchen with other people who all have different styles of cooking and also touch ingredients with their hands, but it was I got over it very quickly because I had to. When it comes to dinner, we all eat together, and I really did enjoy just being able to sit down and cook, and then we all took turns washing dishes as well, and I'm not gonna get too deep into that part. They went over the rules and directions of how we'll patrol, which is basically right before high tide and then until dawn. So basically from 9:30 p.m. to 5:36 a.m. we're outside patrolling the beach. I didn't take my camera on the first night just because I wasn't sure how it would go, but I took a few pictures with my phone. When I woke up the next morning, my professor gave me a bracelet because she heard that I relocated a nest last night. And because I did something with a turtle, she thought that I had earned it. I went on to have breakfast in the main cabin, and then I came back to have a shower. And because of the plumbing and the way the location is set up, we do have to shower outside. And we would have had to use an outhouse as well, but they made some recent renovations earlier this year. So we did have a toilet inside of the cabin, but we did have to shower outside, and the water was very cold. After we covered and labeled the nest from the night before, we just walked around the beach. Some of them went swimming, and then my professor went to go look for seashells. I was looking for crabs just because I have like a little side quest that I'm trying to complete at the moment. It did make me a little uncomfortable seeing all the different holes in the ground because I had just watched a TikTok video like a week before this trip about sea worms and how they basically have like blades all around them. And when I was going to get into the ocean and like swim with the other people or just like kind of sit in the water, I guess. But then as soon as I'm like walking onto the shore, I see one of them come out of the water and kind of drift away with the tide, and I got scared. I got scared. Going into this, I had no idea what the itinerary would be and what we would be doing throughout the day and throughout the night. And I brought a few things along with me on this trip, like a journal, book, and some of my like embroidery supplies, just so I would have something to do to fill the time. I did not know that we would have the quality service that we did, but I still tried to take the opportunity to disconnect from the world and everything going on. I might get into this later, but there were a lot of moments where I felt that I was supposed to be feeling some type of way. Like when we see a turtle, like, oh, everybody gets so excited. And it's like, I get the thrill of finding the turtle. But then after that, I feel like they have reached an emotional achievement while I'm just like, okay, well, next. So I know a few of you watching are probably like, okay, you said you're working with sea turtles, where are the turtles? It's very difficult for me to get footage throughout the nighttime while we're patrolling, just because, one, it's pitch black, and the only light that we have is the moon. Luckily, we have a full moon this week, but also we're split up into teams of 4, so when we see a turtle, it's go time. You know, grab the clipboard, grab the bag, grab the kid, do this, do that, and there's not much time to say, oh, let me get my camera, I want to make sure that I get this on film. That's not the priority. So the way patrolling works is we'll go out to the beach right before high tide just to check the beach, see if there's any turtles who came up early. Of course, high tide is probably the best time and the smartest time for a turtle to come up because they can just come up and then take 2 steps and then they're right back in the ocean after they lay their eggs, versus a low tide where they can be walking 30 yards just to get to the dune to lay their eggs. Once we've gotten as far as we could and then come back, we'll get to the main cabin and we'll just wait until low tide start. Then we'll head back to the beach and go back and forth along the shore looking for tracks. It's hard to explain what you're looking for without actually seeing it, but trust me, the first night I'm looking at the ground and I'll see like horseshoe crabs or ghost crab tracks and I'm like, oh, is that a turtle? But then as soon as we saw what turtle tracks look like, I was like, oh, got it. They are huge. So there's only 2 cabins on this whole island, and 8 of us are split between the 2. But somehow I ended up spending this whole entire day by myself. I'm not complaining. So I woke up and got ready to take a shower. I had to make sure that my bandana matched my shirt before, I was out and seen by the public. I did get used to the cold showers, and around this time of day, it's actually pretty warm because the sunbeams are going straight into the shower, and with the heat, it warms all the pipes up, so it's not too cold. I think it was the first night where we had pizza for dinner. Because the island has no electricity, I did have to eat cold pizza that was also refrigerated, and it was weird at first, but honestly not that bad. I give it's a solid 7. I wouldn't try to eat it again, but if I had to, I wouldn't complain about eating it again. Also, you're gonna see a few clips about this hummingbird feeder. I tried so hard to get it on camera, but whenever I'm looking out the window, this is what I'm looking at, and I saw the hummingbird so many times, but every time I would take out my camera, it would fly away. Every single time. Yesterday's outing was something else. I sat in the cart and felt the heat of the engine on my back. When we patrol the north side, we come back to the cabin more often just because of the tide. We had 3 sightings, one found by yours truly. I received multiple gold stars as the turtle exited the water, and we watched as she began her climb. She did eventually end up turning back around just because she went into one of the dips where water kind of stays, and I don't know if she think that she made like the wrong turn somewhere, but she ended up turning around regardless, so it ended up being a dry run. And while we did have 3 sightings, unfortunately it was not enough to keep me awake, and the breaks between were killer. Getting closer to dinner time, everybody started to show up and really appear out of nowhere. We ended up having BLTs for dinner along with some pasta salad, and when I tell you that was the best pasta salad that I ever had, I ate it about 3 or 4 times after this original meal. After dinner, we went back to the cabins just because we had some time, and remember when I was saying that we had like amazing service? Well, I just couldn't stay away from my K-dramas. I had to spend at least I just had to watch like 1 episode, but that was it. I ended up finishing the show, but we switched up groups, and I was on the north side again for tonight. Luckily this time we had a good amount of breeze, so we ended up staying at the end of the route. One of the girls ended up looking for seashells. I mean, I was just kind of walking around because if I didn't move, then I would fall asleep, because it's also, like 1 o'clock in the morning. I tried to experiment a little bit with the night light on my camera, and I think it turned out all right. I think it could be better, but also it's the lighting or the lack thereof. I mean, all we had was the moon and our red flashlights. Fun fact, The reason we use red LED lights or flashlights or cover the headlights on the carts is because the color red gives off a longer wavelength light and it doesn't interfere with the turtles' nesting habits. So sea turtles are actually less likely to be attracted to red or amber LED lights just because of their longer wavelength, and they don't really see that color as well.
There's another marsh mud. There's like marsh mud. Good girl.